So the video we were about to watch is a video that my friend actually recommended to me. He said, interestingly enough, that it actually made his blood boil watching this video, or it made him kind of annoyed and frustrated, and I could probably understand why just by the name of the video. Today we're going to be looking into things not to say to a non-binary person. I think this is just one of many examples just to show and paint a picture of how far our society has fallen to the point where, yeah, you can't say certain things to people who are men or people who are women, male, female, or whatever the case is. So we're going to be looking into things not to say to a non-binary person, and as always, I'll give my thoughts during or after the video. Let's get into this one.
Are you a boy or a girl?
Is it he or she or they or what?
That's so in right now to be like hashtag gender fluid.
Where do you shop, in the men's or the women's section?
Or unisex?
Unisex! That word needs to die!
Things not to say to a non-binary person. Let's go.
So what's going on down there?
None of your business.
I have had this many times.
It's this fixation to know they have to know because what they see is unclear.
People don't even bother to ask me. They sort of forcibly tell me in the street, you've got this genitalia.
And they can just go along.
You have that genitalia because you are biologically a man. I don't really get where he was going with that. Oh yes, by seeing a woman in the streets, you definitely have a vagina. How dare you assume I have a vagina down there? How dare you assume I was born with a vagina? I mean, what kind of sense, where have we gone in society? But I mean, I do, like I said, I know there's an agenda behind all of this, but it's crazy to think that this is being normalized and accepted in today's society. And this video was actually made 3 years ago. So, wow. Sorry for assuming that you had a penis because you are a man. Biologically and scientifically, these are the facts.
And walk past people in the street and just sort of tick off like
Vagina,
penis.
Ooh, I feel less anxious now. Your genitals have nothing to do with your gender anyway.
Those two organs don't identify your whole life, and they shouldn't.
That's so trendy right now. Hashtag gender fluid.
I can see this person.
I mean, look at this coat.
I'm just like hip and down with the kids, you know. We may have struggled to find the identity to understand who and what we are, but this isn't a fad.
Non-binary is like a term that people can use where I don't want to identify as male or female.
I don't identify with having a gender because I found it really restrictive.
I think the main issue just comes from the idea of people thinking that they can explain your gender back to you. So it's like, I'm non-binary, they're like, oh no, you're trans.
It's complex. I don't know, some non-binary people identify as transgender, others don't.
Yeah, you're right, it is complex. It's complicated. We have the LGBTQ, what is it now, -H? And then we have non-binary, binary, like we have all of these different kind of like groups to explain what kind of gender you are. If anything, they're the ones making it more complicated because they're coming up with like a million different terms, it seems like every year. It really isn't all that complicated. Like it's either you're a man or you're a woman. They're the ones making it complex is my point of saying all of this. They are the ones making it complex because I can't even keep up with the terminology of it all. Like trans women, trans men, non-binary, LGBT, you know, all these different categories that they put themselves into. And it's funny because for people who don't want to be labeled, they're the ones coming up with the most labels. Just saying.
Don't think it's more trendy now. I think our existence is actually being recognized.
Yeah, we're actually being spoken about.
It's reaching people who are going to be confused, like I was, and they're going to be upset and not know what's going on, then they're going to see that word and hopefully it'll mean something to them.
So like you see someone and you can relate to it and you're like, oh yeah, lol, that's me.
Yeah.
What toilet do you use?
I kind of find myself having a breakdown about that on the daily.
Whichever one I please.
Like the amount of times that I've gone into women's bathrooms and it's like, oh, this is the women's bathroom?
No.
This woman in Mackie D's, McDonald's, like laughed at me and was like, ha ha ha, thought you were a man.
And I was literally dragged out of the club by them and was asked, do I carry a card to identify whether I am trans or I should be using that toilet?
I don't like to go in the male toilets at all because it's like I will be looked at, people think I'm a pervert.
I will use male toilets unless I feel unsafe.
I know that I definitely don't feel safe in a men's bathroom.
At the end of the day, a toilet is somewhere where you go and have a shit. So what does it matter what gender you are?
I saw this tweet once that was like,
Why does it matter what gender you are? Because some people will feel generally uncomfortable seeing a man, a 45 or 50-year-old grown man, just for example, in the bathroom with a 12-year-old girl. who's also trying to use the bathroom. But it's okay because the 50-year-old man is really not a man. He's a woman. He's non-binary. So, you know, it really doesn't matter if that little kid feels threatened or uncomfortable by seeing a grown man with his penis flapping about in the bathroom with other women. That doesn't matter. I mean, really, which toilet do you use? Come on.
You know you all have gender-neutral bathrooms in your house.
But were you born a man or a woman?
But were you born a man or a woman?
I mean, what is a man and what is a woman?
A man is a person that has a penis, and a female or a woman is someone who has a vagina. These are basic biological facts. I'm not making it political. I'm not trying to act like I'm Mr. Know-It-All, but these are the facts. It's a very pretty basic conclusion drawn from not much analysis rather than you have a penis or you have a vagina. Like, I'm just trying to wrap my head around this because to me this is just really simple logic, but these are the people making it sound way more complicated than it should be.
You're assigned gender, you're assigned sex.
I wasn't born with a penis, so...
You can be a boy and you can like flowers.
They want to term all your behaviours as either like a feminine or a masculine.
You can be a girl and you can like cars.
Then determine which they think you're more strong in and put you in that box.
I know, what do you know? The comments on this video, there are only 2 genders. Oh, I identify as an attack helicopter.
That's not natural.
This isn't natural, let's be honest.
It literally is though. Like,
How so?
what?
Is marriage natural? Like, have you ever seen 2 squirrels, like one in a suit, one in a white dress, like with a sparrow marrying them in the forest? No.
Non-binary identity has been existing since the beginning of time.
You see other societies and cultures out there and they don't have this very strict 2-box rule.
In the Torah, there are like over 6 or 7 genders.
Like Native Americans.
But just because multiple cultures over millennia have not been so strict on this whole 2-gender identity that they're calling it, doesn't mean it's not unnatural. You have to understand this because there's a lot of things. I could use that same example with Adolf Hitler. There's been many people who think genocide is the way to, you know, better a society. Just because you are saying that multiple cultures across millennia have done this doesn't make it right. And it doesn't mean that it's natural. It's natural in the sense that humans are prone to depravity, if that's what you mean. But as far as saying that it's natural because of look at all the people that have done it, okay, then by your own logic, then like I said, if whatever society dictates to be normal, then I guess that's the standard. So if all of a sudden America becomes a dictatorship and says that we need to kill everybody and that genocide is the way, much like the Third Reich, then I'm assuming that America is right. I've heard that logic so many times before and it's just so faulty.
Had 4 genders.
I think it's India, there's 3rd gender.
Because there are so many examples in the animal kingdom. Snails are hermaphrodites.
Male seahorses give birth to their children.
Clownfish change sex halfway through their life.
Yeah.
Which is a Finding Nemo sequel I'd like to see.
Is it he or she?
I mean, thank you for asking.
2 options, he or she. Babes.
But there's he and she, they, their, ze, zir, fee as well.
It can be confusing for someone because they don't know what you're presenting as necessarily.
From about 6 feet away, they presume me to be female, and then they get closer and they're like, oh.
I went in one shop and they're like, okay, sir, yeah, we'll keep on to that, thank you, sir. I walk into another shop 10 minutes later and they're like, yes, madam, I can't fucking win.
If someone wants those pronouns used for them, then like, that's why it's important.
Any thought that I would be assumed female is like just the most uncomfortable feelings.
And also like people do get pronouns wrong sometimes, but just like correct yourself and it's fine.
And people are like, oh no, but I actually like really struggle changing pronouns because I've known you for a really long time. I'm like, yeah, imagine what it must be like to actually be a non-binary person.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, you're struggling with grammar, I'm struggling with life.
You're literally making people change what they've thought they've known, at least in your mind, their whole life. I've referred to you as a woman your whole life, so the fact that you're now non-binary or now the fact that you're a man, yeah, it's going to take me some time to adjust to the idea that you're not what your biological DNA says you are, which is you are a man or you're a woman. So I don't really see why you can be upset about it. I could see if someone was deliberately trying to provoke you and to make you upset, that's one thing. But then in the sense of someone just generally trying to understand and trying to comprehend that you are now not what you say you are after umpteen years, yeah, I would say that you don't have a right to necessarily be annoyed with them. They understand you to be what you were from birth and from how long they've ever known you, or whatever the case is.
Do you shop in the men's or women's section?
Both is good.
Both is good.
I don't understand why we're still saying this is a female piece of clothing or this is a male piece of clothing.
You have this whole store of all these wonderful things that you could open your mind to. Like,
Sometimes I'll wear a crop top.
Some days I would play with Barbies and wear a fairy dress.
And sometimes I'll wear a suit.
Other days I'd be in a Thunderbirds costume.
but I'm not doing this for you, I'm doing this for me. This is my suit of armour and my portrayal of how I feel inside.
I remember for my 12th birthday, I got Hulk boxer shorts off my mum, and I was
Beautiful.
I was a happy little queer.
Are you gay? Yes.
Hell yeah!
Absolutely. As soon as they see somebody who's slightly more feminine portraying, it's instantly, you're gay.
Sexuality, gender, completely different things.
It's not a thing where your identity and outward portraying image is connected to your sex or sexuality or anything like that.
You define the labels don't define you. So you can bring your own definition to whatever label.
On my forehead or something.
Yeah, I'm gonna get it on a fucking t-shirt.
But I don't get it.
But I don't get it!
Then learn! Like,
That's okay. It's really okay to not understand.
ain't hurting anyone.
You know, despite the fact that everybody's experience is different, it's just so refreshing to meet somebody else whose pronouns are also they and their.
Then like actually having a label is like really, really important.
Yeah. It creates a lot of solidarity too.
It's just a nice warm fuzzy feeling, isn't it?
I love queer people.
I love the queers.
I think the thing about this video, and I'll be 100% honest, they generally do seem like nice people. They do. They generally seem like people that are, you know, cool to talk to on a regular level. And I'm just being 100% honest here. I'm not gonna sit up here and degrade their mentality or degrade their sense of their logic. I mean, even though it is severely flawed within that area. But I just wanted to put that out there that some of these people do generally seem like nice people. The problem that I have is when you start denying basic science and basic biological facts, as I had mentioned already before, and the idea that you're going to pretty much get mad or frustrated or annoyed with someone that doesn't get it because, not because that they're confused, it's because that it does not line up with the science and what we have known to be fact for millennia. And you can't just get all bent out of shape because you're mad that people aren't accepting what has been accepted for millennia. You can't go getting all bent out of shape just because now you want to become a fish, or because now you want to become a man and you are a woman, or a non-binary, and all these different things. And the irony behind what she was saying, behind it being so basic and it being so simple, is the fact that having two genders is simple. I think there was so much irony within that statement alone, and they're the ones, right, they're the ones making it more complicated. And I mentioned this before because for me, I get so confused because there's so many terms and there's so many labels within that whole community. I just get really confused, and then it gets even more confusing when you're just like, wait, so if you're a man who transitioned into a woman and then you date a man, does that make you gay? And I think the answer behind that would be yes, but that's just one example of how confusing and complicated it can really get. As I said before, and this is something that we all should know, is that you cannot use one society or cultures throughout a whole span of time and use kind of like the majority rule argument. Well, because a lot of people did it means that there's nothing wrong with it. That's not true, as we already prefaced earlier in the video. So I think with that right there was also something that was wrong. If you look into things, a lot of people wanted to talk to me and wanted to ask questions about the whole cult type thing. Going back to that post I made about Black Lives Matter and the spiritual movement, I don't think that a lot of people don't realize is that even though that may seem cultish and that may just seem like a bunch of crazy religious fanatic people, you also have to understand that a lot of the ideology behind globalists and a lot of their belief systems do tie into occult beliefs. And this whole, you know, men, it can be women, and all these different ideals that people have these days, it stems from these globalists pushing and funneling it through these, through the leftist ideology or through the leftist movement. I'm not going to sit up here and say that every single person who is a Democrat is stupid or the case, because I'm not trying to generalize, but what I'm saying is that they're working through the Democratic Party and just the whole political party in general to push the agenda that they want to push. And going back to it, a lot of the ideology and belief system of the globalists have heavy ties into the occult. And a lot of this goes back to a man, and I've said this before, but for those who are generally interested in doing such research, research Aleister Crowley. I believe he was an 18th or 19th or maybe even 20th century occultist. And their primary belief was, you know, do what thou wilt. If thou wants to become a woman, become a woman. If you want to become a man, become a man. And even though that these are things that have been going on for centuries, and Aleister Crowley was just a man who was born within recent times as far as history goes, this occult-like belief tying into things like, you know, Baphomet and all this stuff, a lot of people will say that, oh, you know, that's completely, you know, irrelevant to the conversation. No, I think that those things that are being mentioned do definitely have some merit, because a lot of ancient cultures or a lot of globalist leaders in general all pay homage, at least a lot of them pay homage to these occult kind of belief systems. And even though a lot of people might say, well, why are occult things bad? Does that mean that these things are inherently bad? And I would arguably say, yes, I do believe they're bad, because it's shifting the boundaries and it's blurring the lines between what is right and what is wrong. And then that gets into the question of what is truth. Well, if everybody can just do what they want, which is the ideology of satanic occult leaders anyway, let's put that out there. But if you can just do what you want, then the lines are blurred. And I've mentioned this before in so many videos. So people really do have to understand that there is an agenda here, and you can't be getting all bent out of shape just because it doesn't align with what you've been taught. And this is something that's called narrative fidelity. Narrative fidelity is not believing something or not being able to accept something because it does not necessarily align with how you grew up, and how you see the world and how you view the world. This is why I challenge so many people to question what they've been told and not just accept something because it sounds crazy. You have to answer the question, what does it mean for something to sound crazy? Is it because it doesn't go along with what you believe and perceive to be true? Or it doesn't go along with the facts? As far as the occult leaders and everything that I've been saying and their ideology of this whole trans agenda basically being funneled into the democratic system and their belief system altogether, there's actually evidence to support what these claims I'm making are, versus these trans people saying on the very inherent basis of, you know, there is no such thing as two genders. Well, we already can disprove that through actual scientific means and methods and things of that nature. And without even getting that deep, just the genitalia speaks for itself, that what they're saying is complete bullocks at the end of the day. But anyway, I summarize all of this to say that the truth does go deeper than just the political fronts, and a lot of these movements that we're seeing move and being very much active within these times are not just some result of some Marxist ideology or whatever the case, but even Karl Marx was an occultist, and that's what I'm trying to say. People have to understand that a lot of these things go deeper than people are willing to even want to travel into, because it just sounds crazy. And remember, narrative fidelity, right? Just because it doesn't align with the way you see the world doesn't mean it's not true. That just means you might have to unlearn some things and relearn and re-educate yourself apart from what the system has brought you up with for the past, well, however long you've been alive, basically. This video did get like some 58,000 likes and 56,000 dislikes, so this goes to show you not a lot of people are on board with this. I thank you guys for watching this video. This was definitely another, well, I wouldn't say eye-opening, but it was definitely another video to show you the depravity and the state of the world that we do live in. This is by BBC 3. I'm probably going to check out some more of their videos because they do look like they have some good videos to react to and to dissect and to pick apart. But without further ado, I'll see you guys in the next video.